time is now 5:01 p.m. I call this meeting of the Granbury Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections: 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney; 551.072, discussion of purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property; and 551.074, discussion of officers, employees, and personnel matters. The time is now 5:03. Thing I got to add, sorry. And that was, okay, reconvene back into open session. The time is now 5:03 p.m. We're going to adjourn back into executive session, adding in the Government Code, Chapter 551.076, considering the deployment, specific occasions for, or implementation of security personnel or devices. The time is now 5:04 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. The time is now 6:01 p.m. The board is reconvening following the executive session. We will now reconvene by beginning with an invocation led by Mr. Mike Moore.
Will y'all please pray with me? Father God, we are thankful for everybody that is present tonight. We're also so thankful for our hardworking students, staff, teachers, and administrators. And Lord, tonight I'd like to pray for our board president, Barbara Townsend, as she is traveling back home after taking care of her family. Lord, help us to remember why we're here. We are here for the common good of your children. We love where we live. Give us wisdom and strength to make the best decisions for our district. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledges.
All right, good evening, Dr. Dixon, Board of Trustees. It's an honor for Acton Elementary to be here tonight to help lead in the pledges. Here with me tonight are 4 incredible students, but also our instructional specialist, Haley Briggs, who I've asked, before our kiddos introduce themselves, I've asked for her to share about the ceremony or the drive-through breakfast that we did last Wednesday in honor of Patriots Day.
Thank you, Ms. Fulton, and good evening, board. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to share a little bit about the First Responders Drive-Through Breakfast that we held on 9/11 to honor Patriot Day. In preparation for the event, each of our grade levels took a special responsibility and had various service projects to show their gratitude to our first responders. So from writing thank you cards to decorating posters for our front driveway, they all had an incredible contribution that played into making this event really, really special. On the morning of 9/11, representatives from Hood County drove through, all of our firefighters and police officers, and we had a representative from each grade level out on the front porch to serve them breakfast and just get to know them. It was a beautiful morning filled with appreciation, and we're just truly thankful for the heroes who serve our community daily. Here with us tonight are 4 of our AES kiddos who not only help serve breakfast, but also have a first responder in their immediate family. So they're going to introduce themselves before we say the pledges.
My name's Paxton Anderson, and I'm in the 3rd grade, and my dad's a police officer. My name's Logan, and I'm in 3rd grade. My mom is a paramedic, and my dad's a cop. My name is Rowan Pinksa. I'm in 3rd grade, and my dad's a firefighter. My name is Colton Juzanovich, and I'm in 4th grade, and my dad's a fireman.
All right, please join us in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Parents of the kids, if you want to come up and take a photo with them, we'll do it right here. We got them all? We good? One more? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you for doing the pledges for us. And the proud parents, another round of applause for y'all. Okay, moving on to the Achievement Spotlight. We have Kinsley Lynch, a fifth grader at Acton Elementary School, the Scholastic Essay Contest winner, and we have Miss Walton, the principal.
It's me again. Okay, come on up, Kinsley. And I also have Miss Olshig, who was Kinsley's fourth grade teacher last year. Good evening again. It's an honor to be here tonight to recognize the incredible achievement of now fifth grade Kinsley Lynch. She submitted an essay last year, early on in the spring semester, to Storyworks, and her essay was about an African-American tennis player that broke barriers in the game of tennis. And out of hundreds of students across the country, she was one of 5 that was selected as an essay contest winner. And I want to read this from the editor-in-chief. This was the letter that went to Ms. Olshig in the spring semester. It said, Kinsley's entry demonstrated a firm understanding of the text alongside the ability to craft a well-organized and engaging response. Of the hundreds of contest submissions we receive each month, we choose winning entries that show strong critical thinking, point of view, and reading and writing skills. Storyworks contest winners demonstrate a commitment to excellence that reflects the quality of education you provide as their teacher. And so we know tonight we're recognizing Kinsley, but we're also recognizing Ms. Olshig, her fabulous fourth grade teacher. So we've got a certificate for you, Kinsley.
Any proud parents with us tonight? Yes. And we recognize you. Okay, our next achievement spotlight is for Paula Lumbreras, an 8th grader at Acton Middle School, who was invited to attend the Joint Science and Technology Institute this past summer. And we have our principal at AMS, Ms. Pennington, here with us tonight.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Dixon. I have Paola Lumbreras with me, and Paola was one of 32 middle school students who attended the Joint Science and Technology Institute East, which was an educational opportunity to expand her knowledge and experience in science, technology, engineering, and math. The JSTI East is a 1-week residential program in Maryland for current middle school students that exposes them to scientific research through hands-on projects. She collaborated with scientists and was mentored by Department of Defense scientists and experts in STEM fields. She worked with her peers to complete a hands-on research project in a professional lab setting. And you might recognize her mom. Her mom is one of our esteemed teachers at the high school, and she's a former Region 11 Teacher of the Year. So she is among greatness. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing those accomplishments with us. Now moving on to public comments. We have 2 people who signed up to speak tonight. First is Monica Brown, speaking on agenda items 9A, which is the meeting minutes from the previous meeting minutes, items 9D, which is budget amendments, and item number 10C, which is the consider approval of the purchase of 7 school buses. Mrs. Brown.
Okay, I'm just going to jump right in because I've got the 3 items. On 9A, when I go to the website to see the agenda every single month, it's really vague. So you'll see like you're going to approve the minutes, but the public never sees the minutes until the future. So I went to
past meetings to see, well, what are the minutes? And they're incomplete, and many of them aren't even signed. Like, one is signed back in April, but the rest aren't. So just a suggestion that if we could see, I don't know if you can ever do it this way, budget was the same way. We couldn't see it all ahead of time to even intelligently talk about it. So if you go to Weatherford ISD and some of the others around here, they're much more comprehensive in what they release to the public for full disclosure. So that was just a suggestion. Could you post the actual minutes so the public can see what they're approving that night? Or could you set up some kind of potential post so we can see it, then you can approve it, and then put it in your approval spot? Also, the other items on the agenda, if you just go down it, you'll see a lot of information is missing, and it's just a cover letter. So that's that. Then budget amendments. What are and where are the specific amendments posted for public review? Again, could you set up a review site so we could see them and give you intelligent feedback? Historically, GISD gives a cost of living raise to all non-certified employees every year on September 15th. To my knowledge, they didn't get it this year, and just a curiosity question, maybe Mr. Whitefield could explain it, but I know we did the VATRI, and so it's like, are they not getting their cost of living, or are they going to get it later? But normally they get it by now, and so it's just a curiosity. Someone asked me to ask that, and also a question about the fund balance. If it's greater than 20%, what is that extra money used for? Could it be used to pay these cost of living increases? Could it be used for more buses? And I think the last thing I wanted to say was about the bus. I'm so excited about the buses coming in. I know everybody is, because it's been a topic on 3 bonds, I think, at least 2 bonds. I don't want to say 3 because I'm not certain, but all of a sudden we have money for it. So I'm glad about that. And I noticed that it's coming from a Texas-owned business that's been around since 1965. So it's great to know that we have a local source for buses kind of all of a sudden, but I'm glad for that, and I hope to see more bought. If that's what we needed was 30, could we purchase more? Could we purchase some every so often? If we're able to purchase 7 now, all of a sudden, could we purchase more? So that was a big question. Why were these on bonds? And where did the money come from for these? And could we buy more? What would we do with the money over the 20% for fund balance? Just a curiosity question people were asking me, so I thought tonight I would come and ask as well. I know you can't answer me now, but maybe when we get to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And the other person who signed up was Mr. Todd Daniel. I don't believe he's here, though. No? Okay, moving on. Okay, next item is consider action on items discussed in closed session. First item was staff recommendations. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we approve the staff recommendations as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? And show of hands for yes. All in favor? And that is approved. 6-4, and 1 absent. Ms. Lowry is absent. 2. Oh, I'm sorry. 5-2, with 2 being absent. 5-4 and 2 absent. Next item is discussion and possible action, including adoption of a resolution to approve the sale of real property described as 7 acres, more or less, of unimproved property in Hood County, described as Lot 2, Block 1, Acton Elementary School Addition, located at 2850 Acton School Road, Granbury, Texas, 76049. And as far as those motions go, just want to give you some clarification. You can accept the bid and the resolution, or you can reject the bid.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees reject the bid for the sale of real property as described in the agenda.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Alana to reject the bid. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
I have a second by Ms. Graff. All in any further discussion? All in favor of rejecting the bid? Okay, that's 5 in favor of rejecting the bid with 2 absent. Ms. Townsend and Ms. Lowry are absent. And then moving on to consent agenda items. Do we have any trustees that want to pull any items for discussion?
Madam President, I'd like to pull the donations on the
On the budget amendments?
budget amendments.
Okay. Any other trustees would like to pull any items? I would like to pull item I, the IXL Learning Program. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items that have not been pulled?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, moving on to discussing consent agenda item D, consider budget amendments. Ms. Alana.
All right. Thankfully, we have many generous people in our community that believe in public education and often show their support for public education by making donations. This past month, we had a donation from Whataburger to Acton Elementary teacher Sally Roberts as the Whataburger Teacher of the Year to use in her classroom, and the donation was $1,000. There was a donation from David Davalos to Stars Campus for water bottles for our students in the amount of $386.82. A donation from Cervantes Trucking to Stars Campus for student binders for notes in the amount of $163.52. We had a donation from the Wagon Yard to the High School Student Activity Fund for school supplies in the amount of $100. A donation from G&G Electric to the GHS Pirate Sports Network for sponsorship in the amount of $1,500. We had a donation from the Hyde Law Firm and Hood County News to the GHS Pirate Sports Network for sponsorship in the amount of $2,500. We had a donation from the Constellation Power Generation, which is Wolf Hollow, to Operation School Supplies for $6,400. A donation from Kiwanis Club of Lake Granbury to Operation School Supplies in the amount of $500. A donation from Kimberly Kuntz to Operation School Supplies for $100. And a donation from the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd to Operation School Supplies in the amount of $500, for a total of donations this past month of $13,150.34. Thank all these people if you see them.
And before we move on to the other item, I need to pull item 9F. I need a motion to reconsider. I need to make an amendment on that consent agenda item.
Madam President, I move that we pull 9F and reconsider.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? It's 5-4, 2 absent. The MOU with United Way, we have a proposed motion change. I need a motion that moves that we approve leasing one district building located at 305 North Hannaford to United Way of Hood County and delegate authority to the interim superintendent to negotiate and sign the lease.
So moved, Madam President.
Could I have a motion by Mike Moore? Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second by Ms. Alana. All in favor?
Can we have some
Oh,
discussion?
yes, I'm sorry. Discussion.
Okay, would you explain exactly which building that is and the purpose?
So that's the same building that Parks and Rec occupied when the city had the building. Mr. Whitefield?
Yes, ma'am. That's that north hallway just off of Decker Gym. The slant hallway is not inhabitable, but this building up there where Parks and Recreation are, up to that double door and that little conference room down there, we can seal that hallway off by those double doors, and they would use that lower conference room as storage. And then that office space is that north hallway right there. I believe it's about 6,398 square feet total for that hallway for United Way and their partners.
Have you looked at the contract that they,
It was a contract that I provided to them. They had their legal counsel redline it. We sent it back to our legal, and they still have it. They're going to come back there. Liz said there will be some back and forth. That's the reason for giving Dr. Dixon the authority to execute the lease, because whenever the two legal teams come to an agreement, what's best for us and what's best for them.
okay, so actually, we're not ready to vote on this.
The motion is to give Dr. Dixon the authority to execute the contract.
Okay.
It'll give her the authority to execute the contract once both legal sides agree to the terms.
So the terms could change from, like, the amount of rent could change, or?
I don't foresee that changing. It's just there were certain things that were redlined from their legal that ours had to review first. So once both legal sides come to an agreement on those changes, then we would be delegating authority to Dr. Dixon to execute that lease.
And remind me the length of the agreement. Did we have that in there?
I believe it just auto renews every year.
And are they ready to start this as
Yes.
soon as legal is finished?
I believe that October 1st was the move-in date they were requesting.
Madam Vice President, sorry. That date is negotiable at this point. It is for a 3-year period, renewable year-to-year basis up to 5 years.
Right here. Yeah, its agreement is for renting the above described premises for 3 years and then renewable on a year-to-year basis up to 5 years as a periodic tenancy beginning at 12 noon, October 1st, 2024, and continuing until such time as this agreement is terminated in accordance with the terms herein. But as Mr. Whitefield said, that is subject to change.
And the rent in your board book says 1,000, but I think it's at 900 right now.
Okay.
And in the terms of this agreement, they are responsible for all maintenance
They're responsible for the HVAC systems and the plumbing systems, yes, ma'am.
and utilities?
They'll be paying their own utilities.
And
It's all negotiable too, correct?
Yes, that's not something that their legal marked up in there. There was just some things about parking and subletting and everything that we're negotiating through, and some reasoning behind, the rent that being $900 as they're a 501c3 and they're partners with the district. And they are housing, right now they're housing our Operation School Supplies inventory, so.
And it's better to have somebody occupying the building
Sure.
versus leaving it vacant.
Sure, if you walk through our vacant buildings, you can see how dilapidated they become, but whenever somebody's in there and taking care of the building, it keeps the value.
Madam President, I move that we allow Dr. Dixon to arrange and negotiate the lease agreement with United Way of Hood County for the facilities at 305 North Hannaford.
Do I? Right, we had to reconsider.
And I'll second.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Wimberly, a second by Mike Moore. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is 4. Any against? And 1 against. Ms. Graft is against. Ms. Alana, Mike Moore, myself, and Ms. Wimberly 4. And we have Ms. Townsend and Ms. Lowry absent. Okay, consent agenda item I, consider the renewal of the IXL Learning Program. Ms. Brown, would you come and tell us a little bit about this program and kind of the benefits that we're seeing in our district?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. IXL Learning is a teaching and learning platform that is tied to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and it allows teachers to supplement their instruction specifically by using targeted skill building and skill mastery. And so we have specific areas, content areas, and grade level bands that actually work through IXL. Universal screener data that we take is fed into the program, and the program creates a pathway for students of improvement on skill building, so recommendation of target skills for that particular grade level and content area. And then it also allows a teacher to create specific assignments that they want their students to practice. So it could be fact practice, it could be working with grammar, it could be vocabulary, etc. Specifically, there are 9,000 skills, subject and grade and category based, and the assessments the students are given, the NWEA that is fed into that, actually creates recommended skills and directed skills to focus in on. So we use it predominantly for intervention, and so when I say intervention, I want to make sure that everybody knows there are sometimes things that kids may struggle with, a specific concept or a specific skill. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that that student, intervention. It just means that we're going to intervene and do some direct instruction and then do some skill practice for whatever it is, whatever grade level and content. Teachers have the flexibility to do things in a whole group setting, so they can put something up on the smart board and say, hey, everybody is really struggling with this, let's walk through a couple examples. And so that's called the group jam. And so they are able to do a group jam with a whole group or even a small group. So they can bring in a small group and say, I gave you 2 specific skills I want you to work on. When you're finished, come meet me at my table and let's walk through what you did, how it worked, and I guess clarify any misconceptions that the student may have. So it's used in a variety of different ways. There's also an independent way where students are working on a question, and if it gets too difficult, they can actually click the button at the bottom that says, this one's too hard for me. And so then the system will actually pick that up and give them a different problem, and then the teacher can see all of the different skills that the student has said, this is too difficult for me. So there's also this self-awareness that we're working on with our kids. It is structured with different item types that mirror the STAR. So we have all of the different, drop-down menus and different fill-in-the-blanks and hot buttons and all that kind of stuff that are specific to our STAR area. And then there is actually some content-based games, but the teacher has the ability to turn them off and turn them on. And so those are not readily available to students unless they want them to practice those specific games, and they can actually select which game they want them to practice. They use the content-based games a lot of the time for indoor recess, so that they are actually having, to practice maybe some math facts or something while they're inside. There is also competitions that are set up. So sometimes when we get close to STAR, we do competitions for kids that are reaching certain levels. If you get so many right that you've been given or that the teacher has designed for you or given to you on your path, that you can earn, stars on your ladder or whatever it is that they may be working for. The other thing that it does is it provides additional resources and capabilities for test prep. So PSAT, ACT, SAT, TSI, TELPAS, and then all of the pre-ACT, pre-SAT, as well as several others. So what questions can I answer for you on IXL Learning?
What kind of benefits are we seeing from this program?
So specifically, we've had a lot of great growth. It provides a dashboard not only for the district, but for each campus, by teacher, by student, et cetera. And we have mastered, proficient, and then practice. Those are the three categories. And we actually had several schools in the district that had above 60% mastery on certain skills that they were working on, not only at school, but then also at home. And so a lot of the growth, which is not, growth and achievement are two different things, right? So you look at achievement means I am supposed to be here and that's where I am. And then you have growth as far as, well, I'm here and I need to go higher. I've already met the achievement for my grade level, but I need to go further. And so it really has impacted our growth and our percentage of growth. Specifically at one campus, we really saw some improvement with the number of questions that they had answered and were competing against, and they set up all kinds of leaderboards and all different things, and all the campuses actually had growth, but this particular campus had a tremendous amount of growth. So does that answer the question?
Do you know how many students that take part in this? How many have taken advantage of this program?
So I will tell you that I pulled the information specific to the number of licenses that we have. And so we actually used one license above what our contract said we were supposed to be doing. So right now they're saying 7,551 students were part of some skill building, some mastery of a particular content area. So does that
So like 90+% of all the students?
Yes, and not only, some students may not be using every content area. Like they may not be struggling in science, but they may be struggling in their math course, whether it's Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 or geometry. They can then make sure that they are targeting the skill. We actually have a lot of our high school students work at home. So we know that it's being assigned as homework, and so they're practicing at home as well as in school.
I just want to say this is one way that our students can receive individualized instruction. And I think that's one thing that is often criticized, is that we teach to the whole class. But when you put students on this, they are working at their level, at their ability level, and able to really target those specific areas that they need to practice in. They may get all the different areas that are being taught in math, but they're really struggling on one part. Mm-hmm. And so to be able for that student to sit down and have direct instruction on that one area can make the difference of a really good score on their exams later on. Plus, it builds their confidence. And anytime you can build the student's confidence when they sit down to do a test of some sort, then they're going to feel much better about what they're doing, and it's going to be easier for them to take that exam. So any type of program that we can provide our students, it does allow for them to work at their ability and to work at their own pace on those specific areas that they need to address, I think is a great thing for our students. And I love the fact that they can do it at home as well.
Yes. One of the neatest things that we've seen is that a lot of times students don't like to identify themselves like I don't get it, right? And so with this specific program, it gives you, if you get a question wrong, it will give you an example of how to do the problem. And then if you're still unsure, you can click a video, and the video will walk you through why we do these things and how it'll impact if you do it this way, and kind of a short reteach, if you will, on the specific skill. So.
And it also gives the teacher real-time data to work with, so she can individualize instruction, work with small groups, in real time, instead of waiting after the fact. Sometimes the STAR, as great as it is, it gives us all the answers after the fact.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely, yes, and they have a live IXL where the teacher can see specifically, oh, the student's not doing what I asked them to do. They're going in and they're doing something else. I'm going to pull them up here and work with them there.
All right, well, thank you for that information.
Okay.
Any more questions for Ms. Brown? Okay, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda I, the renewal of IXL Learning Program?
Madam President, I move not only that we approve 9I, renewal IXL Learning Program, but also 9D, consider budget amendments.
Oh, did I forget? 9I and D. I apologize. I have a motion from Mr. Wimberly. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Raise your hand. Any against? That is all 4 in favor, and, I'm sorry, 5 in favor, and I have 2 absent, Ms. Townsend and Ms. Lowry. Okay, moving on to discussion and action items. Item number 10A, consider the 2024-2025 campus improvement plans. Mrs. Clark.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Thank you, Board. I'm going to wait for him to get that up there. So I'm going to give you the 30,000-foot view of campus improvement plans. If you were lucky enough to get them printed off, they were some 500 pages, and all of our principals work very, very hard to get their campus improvement plans done. But I'm going to talk about the process. You can't get it? Oh, so do you want to just advance it for me? Perfect. All right, so the campus needs assessment comes first, and then followed by the campus improvement plan. And this is just an exercise in continuous improvement for every single campus. Their admin team, led by the principal, is going to go through this yearly. So when we get our data back at the end of the year, STAR data, but everything else as well, they've had their benchmarks throughout the year, their common assessments, we get TELPAS data back, and we are able to look at where we are sitting at the end of the year after all of the improvements that we have made and growth we have made that year. We also look at our intervention data. Everybody is doing those individualized instruction moments, and so looking at that, looking at surveys from our human capital, because our second goal is all about our human capital, our people. We also look at are we growing, and do we have more needs for teachers and things that we would need to talk with and consider in our budget. And then our community connection, which is our third goal, and look at data from that and the surveys and the attendance of all of the different community connection dates that we had throughout the year. So our campus principals are like at the end of the year saying, how did that go? Where did we do really, really well, and what do we want to focus on next based on all of these different data points? So they go through this campus needs assessment, and then they come back in July and August and they start working on their campus improvement plan, which they also work on their at a glance, so that you have a one-pager that you can look at and they kind of summarize it for you. And then in November, February, and April, for all of those strategies that are in the big, thick one, okay, where it's not the cheat sheet or one pager for you, they will go and say, this is how we think we're doing on these strategies to meet these goals that are set by our strategic planning that we went through a year and a half ago. So goal number 1, as set forth by our strategic plan, was all about academic achievement and future-ready skills. So you'll see some things that are pretty common across most of our campuses. We do make use of instructional specialists to help us push our academic achievement. All of the different things that are listed there. CCMR is more high school focused with our TSI and our Texas College Bridge and our industry-based certifications that Todd Gibson usually comes up here and talks to you about. We have some really good focused goals on some of our Closing the Gaps subpopulations. Closing the Gaps is where our federal government tells us what targets we have for special populations, okay? And so if we don't hit those targets, then we know we need more work there, then we can have some pretty focused goals on academic achievements in those subpopulations. That hits goal 1. Goal 2 is our human capital, highly effective, well-supported, and valued staff. So really, we dive into our Tarleton teacher residency. We have 25 residents this year that we're working with. Our mentors for our new teachers. We have data from our surveys of all of our people, and we do exit and stay interviews. Some of our campuses do stay interviews to see how things are going with the people who are staying. So a lot of our push that we've talked about in here quite a bit is our observation feedback coaching, that individualized professional development for our teachers and our administrators, making sure that they're getting in that classroom and coaching those teachers and helping them grow professionally. And then instructional rounds more as a group. So we spend some money in interventionist support personnel and bilingual support personnel as our bilingual campuses are growing. Goal number 3, student staff. Oh, I have a typo. Please excuse me. I see it now. A little too late. Family and community connection. So some of the different ideas that our campuses have for community connection and getting those families in are really quite wonderful. We all have a goal of increased communication. So hopefully everyone's getting their weeklies from their principals, good communication from their teachers through Dojo and Remind. We really like to partner with our agencies for support and resources. We have really good partnerships in our nice little community and our community and schools program on some of our campuses. A big push this year, we finally went district-wide for CKH. That's been going really, really well. And if you follow the same Facebook feeds that I do, you see a lot of those awesome shout-outs to all of our students and our faculty members doing so many awesome things, building that Granbury community. Yeah. CKH, capturing kids' hearts and capturing teachers' hearts. One of them put that, we're capturing kids' hearts and we're capturing teachers' hearts. It's been really fun to focus on those relationship building goals. Goal number 4 is a well-maintained, secure facilities prepared for growth. And like I said, these 4 goals came from our strategic plan. So what we do, a lot of our goals, our strategies for this goal are wrapped around our safety plans, our safety drills, our processes and procedures for people on campus, our behavioral threat assessment team. Every single campus has their admin and their counselors trained through the Texas School Safety Center for behavioral threat assessments, and then those checks so that we can have a 100% pass rate on our safety audits from the state. And so everyone is on that goal. So that kind of sums up, even faster than your one-pagers, what our campus principals are doing to meet our goals. I definitely took the highlights. If you have any questions, you can ask us now, or you could make an appointment and ask me or any of the campus principals. So do you have any questions?
This is the campus improvement plans.
Yeah.
It is a very large document. Could you explain a little bit more about how these campus improvement plans are developed?
Sure. So like it starts with that CNA, the campus needs assessment. So there's different areas that you're looking in. We have a template that we're looking in and diving into each of our different areas. How is our demographic population shifting? Are we meeting the needs of those shifts? Are we just not in sheer numbers, but also some of the subpopulations are growing? And are we accommodating enough to intervene with the needs that that population has? For example, our special needs population is increasing. We're at like 18%. special needs in Granbury. And so you have to look at that when you're looking at staffing. You look at student achievement, everybody's looking at student achievement and student growth. That takes a lot of their time because that is really how we're measuring, are we being effective in our classrooms and as school leaders. And so they'll take a lot of time looking into not just the student achievement, but the student growth data as well, so that they know where we're doing really well, and so we can keep those things the same, and then where we're needing to grow better. And so then we work closely with our curriculum and instruction department, who will have a district improvement plan goal, and they then look at what professional development do we need to be offering after school, which they have a nice slate of after school and summer PE for everyone that is targeted specifically to some of the things that we really need to grow in, or if we have a new resource like we just adopted science curriculum, right? So that will go in the needs assessment and then turn around and become a strategy for our improvement plan. Looking at survey data to see and retention data. Mr. Jones will look and see some of his exit interviews. Why are people leaving? Is it something we can control? Is it something we can do better? Where are we having a hard time recruiting? Is there something we can do there? And so that also becomes part of the campus or district needs assessment. And so from those things, they all kind of fit in one of our big 4 buckets that our district wanted us to be focusing on. So then you look into those 4 big goals of student achievement, human capital, the community connections and involvement and getting our families and communities connected, and then our facilities being safe and secure and enough space for all of our children. And we try to make strategies to control what we can control and improve in the areas that we see that there's opportunities for improvement. Sometimes there's more opportunities for improvement than you could possibly tackle, so you prioritize them and you say, these are the things we're really going to focus on this year, and we're going to get better right here. Because with intentionality, we've seen really good results in the things that we become intentional on. So that's kind of the continuous improvement cycle. That's the work that our admin teams do over the summer so that they can present their plan when their district, when their campus staff comes back in August for here's where we're focusing and this is what we're going to continue to do these things well and this is where we're going to improve. And we're going to hit the ground running in what's best for kids. And that's kind of the campus improvement plan process over the summer to now. And then we'll have those checkpoints, like I said, in November, February, and April, and we'll do it again next June.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And the 4 strands you're talking about that come from our strategic plan, and it's available on our website for the community to see if they want to know more about what we're talking about.
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. And our district improvement plan that we'll present later, next month, I think, is going to stay within those 4 as well. And the big targets that group came up with, those are going to be a lot of our district strategies and goals that we're going to focus on, and then some of the other things that we see from our data that we need to work on as well.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Any more questions?
I have one. So we know our teachers and administrators are actively involved in their campus improvement plan and the needs assessment. What about our parents and community?
So that's probably somewhere where we could improve, Ms. Alana. We do have, when the campus improvement plan is near finished, they have their CLT, their campus leadership team, that will meet and go over that and make sure that if there's anything that from the parent point of view they want to add. So parents who are on the CLT might get a good view, but unless they're looking for it online, they might not see all of those things. But hopefully through some of the very intentional moves that our admin is making, I would say that there's probably not anyone who doesn't know that good communication for our community is part of our goal this year, because it's been pushed out so hard, for example. But thank you. Yes, we can get better at that.
Well, I know a lot of the the campus leadership team should have parents and a community representative on that committee as well. So if they are actively involved in developing the campus improvement plan, then they would definitely have their input.
Yes.
Any more questions? Thank you, Ms. Clark. I appreciate you taking the time to explain all that to us.
You're so welcome.
Do I have a motion to approve the approve the campus improvement plans as presented?
I'd also like to thank the parents and the teachers and the administrators that put these plans together. It takes a long time to do all of that, and you did a great job on your plans, and we appreciate it very much, so thank you for that. And with that, I would like to move that we accept the campus improvement plans as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? That's 5-4, 0 against, with 2 absent, being Ms. Townsend and Ms. Lowry. Okay, moving on to action item B, consider approval of the purchase of additional fences for Bacchus, GHS, and Mambrino.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Board, in front of you, you do have a proposal for fences and gates for Bacchus, Mambrino, and High School. The original bid is being awarded to Calvary Constructions upon your approval. These were additional needs that were identified at Bacchus and Mambrino and the high school. It's approximately 4,750 of linear feet of fence. It is going to be Calvary Construction that we're recommending. It is recommended that the board approve the proposal from Calvary Construction and Restoration for the furnishing, installation of new fencing, and removal of all existing fencing at Bacchus Elementary, Mambrino, the GHS courtyard, and the GHS pavilion. The recommended option is for steel fencing at a total price of $431,990.13 through the TIPS contract. This project will be funded with a safety and security grant.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Madam Vice President, I move that we approve the proposal from Calvary Construction Restoration for furnishing, installation, new fencing, removal of all existing fences at Bacchus, Mambrino, GSH Courtyard, GHS Pavilion.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Wimberly to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Ms. Graft. All in favor? That is 5-4, 0 against, and 2 absent, being Mrs. Townsend and Mrs. Lowry. Okay, moving on to action item 10C, consider approval of the purchase of 7 school buses.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Board, in front of you, you do have the proposal for 5. We started with a memo for 5 77-passenger buses with 2 special ed buses. You do have an amended memo in front of you for 5 71-passenger buses and the 2 special ed buses. The reason for the amendment is that the 77-passenger buses would have taken us 6 to 7 months to get. The 77-passenger bus or 71-passenger buses that we can get currently we will have on the ground before Thanksgiving, and actually saved us $57,000 to go with those buses instead of the 77. So the proposal that you do have in front of you is for 5 71-passenger buses and 2 special ed buses. But if you'll remember at the last meeting during the Committee of Fund Balance, we were expecting to sell that 5 acres of land there in Acton. It was happening actually after the last board meeting, so we committed those funds in the assuming that was going to sell, and so that's what this funding is. That funding was about $730,000. This total price package is $990,000, but you'll see when we get to the financials that there will be funds to handle that as well.
Okay, and can you talk more about those funds now?
I can.
Okay.
If you remember, starting at about March, because it was a spring break for me, we realized that the CADs that use Southwest data did not report our loss in frozen levy, which our frozen levy went from $17 million to $7 million. So we lost $10 million in frozen levy. The 5253 that they report that on was not reported correctly to the comptroller, so we started the audit process at that point. After so many districts filed that audit process with the comptroller, they came up and said, okay, we're going to get rid of all of these audits so you keep your audits for future years in case you need them. And they came up with a new form, was a 50-400. That form was just a correction of the 5253. And that form came out just a few weeks ago, like the 1st of August. And when we filed that, we ended up getting a settle up, and I'm assuming that this is part of that settle up, was a $6 million settle up at August 23rd. Now, we were projected losing that $10 million. We were going to show a loss in our August financials. We are no longer going to show that loss, that those funds are there right now.
So this is money we received back from the state to settle up from those frozen levies?
Those frozen levies, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we were not the only district.
We were not the only district, no, ma'am. They, in fact, they created a new form at the comptroller's office so that we could all file it.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So that has allowed us to have some extra funds to be able to purchase more buses.
For the buses, and we'll discuss the HVAC systems later.
Yes, I will bring that up. Thank you, I appreciate that explanation. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the purchase of 5 77 passenger buses and, 71 passenger buses and the 2 special ed buses?
Madam President, I move that we use these funds that the comptroller's office returned to our district after their era so that we could purchase these buses, and the people that are having questions about why it was in the bond and why we have the money now, hopefully this will answer their question. So I move that we approve this for 5 71 passenger buses and 2 special ed buses as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And all in favor? That is 5-4, 0 against with 2 absent. Do I have any more discussion? Or we already voted, so discussion is over. But I do want to say that there was questions from public comments. If you still have questions, feel free to reach out anytime. We'll be happy to answer those. Okay, moving on to item 10D. Consider approval of the purchase of 500 Chromebooks under RFQ 2024-15. Mr. Whitefield.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, you do have the RFQ for the 500 Chromebooks in front of you. There were 347 vendors that were invited to respond. Only 30 of them did. The proposals were due on September 9th. The evaluation was conducted by Brent Wilson and Brady Drake of the purchasing department. The recommended vendor is going to be Vivacity Tech Public Benefit Corporation. The price on the Chromebooks is $261 a piece. This includes the hardware, the Google Chrome management license, Google Zero Touch provisioning, and a total cost, including $900 shipping, for $131,400. If you have any questions, Mr. Wilson would be glad to answer those.
Yeah, I have a question. I could go on Amazon and find a Chromebook for like $150. Could you explain why these are this price?
So technical specifications for the devices are typically around 4 gigs of memory and 32 gig card space. They also are a 2-in-1 foldable device because we see that the clamshells that we put in the child's hands, they overextend the hinges and they snap off the screens or they break the parts. So these actually fold all the way back. So that's typically the largest cost in that device. Also, when you have a device and you add it to our inventory, we have to enroll it in our enterprise, and that is a $31 license. And that $31 license covers the lifespan of that device, which is typically 10 years. So a $229 Chromebook for 10 years is $22 a year. So buying a refurbished device at 3 years actually costs us more over the lifespan of that original first device.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Do I have any more questions for?
I have a question. Who are the recipients of these Chromebooks? Do you know yet?
We will evaluate. We have been evaluating. We have purchased almost 4,000 Chromebooks in the last year and a half. We are short 641 devices for the enterprise, for the GISD to be 1-to-1. So 500 short will go more than likely through our K through 2. There's going to be a few going to the high school and some going to the middle schools. Emma is our last one because they're not using most of those devices. But by and large, we're going to evaluate the need and then go from there.
One more question, and so this was included in the budget, correct? The price, is this included in our budget?
The price is not, but the refurbished or the life cycle of these devices, I have to buy at least 800 Chromebooks a year to maintain the life cycle compatibility for the devices.
Okay, and then I just have a comment, and it is not a popular comment, but I did a little research because I know that education is moving further and further to technology. But some of the research I did, there's a lot of adverse effects on especially our younger students. And you can go out there and research this if you're interested. But for example, just one quick example is too much classroom time can cause increased behavior problems, decreased reading comprehension and attention problems, and research shows that paper learning better engages students, which improves material retention and comprehension. Not to say that we shouldn't have any technology, I absolutely think we need to, but it was just something that I studied and I found curious. And then another book that I was reading, if anyone's interested, it's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And it just talks about the effect that too much technology has on our students. And it was something interesting that I came across in case anybody else is interested in looking at that.
Thank you for that comment.
Just to add to that, when you have state mandates for aptitude testing and requires every child to have a device in their hand, we don't have any options at that point. We have to purchase enough devices for every child.
And I understand that. That's,
Yeah, a lot of these mandates come down from the state, and I know our teachers do an excellent job of balancing out instruction so that they're not just in front of a screen all day, because we all can agree that that is not what is best for kids. But there are certain things that the state requires us to do, and we have to follow that. So we can definitely work with our legislators to create change there if that's what we need to do, but I know our teachers do an excellent job of balancing instruction with that screen time, so they're not just in front of a screen all day. And, you know, a mom with kids in the district, I know how hard they work to make sure they're working with those kids as much as possible. Do I have a motion to approve the purchase of 500 Chromebooks under RFQ 2024-15?
Madam President, I move that we approve the purchase of the 500 Chromebooks under the RFQ 2024-15 at a cost of $261 apiece.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Move to amend. The price is $131,400. 262 is on a different page.
Well, that includes the shipping, I think. Is that correct?
I believe the total cost is $131,400.
It says total cost, including $900 shipping and handling, $131,400.
If you do the licensing and the Chromebooks itself, it was $261, and then you add in the shipping, it was $262. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it was $262.80.
Okay.
That price also is at 1,000 Chromebooks. We're only purchasing 500. So it would be 131, I believe.
Yeah.
So right now I have a motion to amend by Mr. Wimberly. Could you please state the amendment again?
State to amend the price of the 500 Chromebooks from $162,800 down to $131,400.
Okay,
And I'll second the
and a
amendment.
second from Alana. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is 4-4. Any against? One against, being Ms. Kraft, and 2 absent, being Ms. Townsend and Mrs. Lowry. Okay, moving on to the reports, financial statements and cash flow investments. Mr. Whitefield.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Board, in front of you, you do have the financial statements for August 31st, 2024. These do include transactions between September 1st, 2023 and August 31st, 2024. Revenue collected to date equals 98.29% of the budgeted amount compared to 100.5% in 23 and 24. The expenditures to date represent 94.45% of the budget compared to 98.65% in 23-24. This is where we were talking about the settle up with the state. If you look up under your revenues, you can see that there was a shortfall under local property taxes, but then we also received a great deal more in the state funding under your 5800s. We received the 6160 per student, so whenever local funding goes up, state funding goes down. When local funding goes down, state funding goes up, because you're allowed the same amount of funding based on your ADA. So whenever our local funding and loss in our frozen values went down, then our state funding went up. However, we didn't know that was going to happen until the audits were filed with the comptroller to make sure that our 5253 was filed correctly through the software companies. So that was the reason for that, and we didn't amend that because we didn't know what the funds were going to do.
Right. You can't really count your chickens before they hatch.
Exactly. And those came in August 23rd, and our last meeting was August 19th, which would have been my last day to amend.
Okay. And then could you explain a little bit more about what we're doing with some of that?
So we did do the committed fund balance at the last meeting because we knew the $700,000 was coming in from the property sale. So we knew we were going to do the buses. We just did a little bit more whenever that funding came in. I did have my maintenance team pull the I said top 40 or 50, and they pulled me 49 HVACs, they're most problematic. There were 18 units at Mambrano, 7 units at Little Buccaneers, 9 units at Stars. There was 1 unit at GMS, 1 unit at AMS, and 13 units at Bacchus that they tagged as our most problematic. That's 49 HVACs. That would be close to about $1 million to replace those, and that money looks like it will be put into fund balance. The financials that you have show that we're showing a $4 million profit. That is not right. That's not correct, because we're still paying bills from August. So currently, we're at about 3.6, but we still have audit entries that are going to be coming in. So we're looking at putting right at $2.5 to $3 million in fund balance due to that, and those can be used for repairs for those failing HVACs, and then we can revisit the transportation situation. But you don't want to buy all your transportation, you don't want to buy your buses in 1 year, because then they all go bad at the same time.
And we've been buying buses.
Yes, ma'am. We've bought 19 since 2017. Yeah, 2017. Yeah, since 2017, we've bought 19 buses out of maintenance operations.
And I remember the first year I was on the board, we bought like 80-something HVAC units, correct?
We used ESSER funding.
That was ESSER funding.
This is, in the last year and a half, we replaced 82 units at $1.5 million.
Okay, and then this will get us approximately 50 more, either to replace or to fix them.
We'll replace them.
Replace them completely.
They're the most problematic, and just fixing them is not working any longer.
No, yeah. And I know some of those that you can't even get parts for anymore.
That is correct.
Right. Okay, so we're putting this extra money from the state that we got from those frozen levies, we're putting that into transportation and into HVAC.
Right.
And then we'll reevaluate afterwards to
Right.
see what else we can address.
Right, that's the settle up from the state based on what we lost through Senate Bill 2.
Cool, awesome, thank you so much. And can you explain a little bit more about our fund balance, why we have that, what is it used for?
The fund balance, and talking about the 20%, board policy says 20%, TEA says 25%. So we try to keep it right at 25%, but we can't go below 20% because then we violate board policy. That 25% that we try to keep in there is for the operating months that we don't receive funding, because we receive all our funding in December and January. So between the months of September, October, November, and right to the end of December, we are operating on our savings account, basically.
Right, so we get our money from the state around the beginning, and then we have to have that fund balance last us the rest of the year to pay our bills, to pay our teachers, to pay our staff, et cetera.
Those funds come from local taxes. I mean, we get those in December and January.
December and January.
Right.
Thank
And we
you.
pay our recapture in August. So we operate on all those, that savings account basically almost 3 months right there. September, October, November. We're basically, we're working out of our savings account.
All right, thank you so much, I appreciate that
Yes, ma'am.
explanation. And moving on.
Moving on. Okay, you do have your cash and investment report in front of you. This will be the last one for the 23-24 year. You can see to date that we made $2,744,684 in interest. At this time last year, we made $2,494,000 in interest in those things. And that's up considerably from about 2 years ago when we were lucky to hit $100,000 on our interest. And that is your report, Madam Vice President.
Thank you so much, Mr. Whitfield. Any further questions from the board? Okay. With no further business, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:10 PM.